During the Dreamcast era, I was a huge fan of Phantasy Star Online. It's one of the games I've put the most hours into. But back in the 8 and 16-bit days being a Nintendo kid, I didn't have much opportunity to play the earlier entries in the Phantasy Star series. However, these games have always fascinated me, and I always thought the mix of sci-fi and fantasy settings was really cool. So I decided to make up for my lack of experience with the series by playing every Phantasy Star game ever released. Here's my review of the very first entry in the series, simply called Phantasy Star. This game was originally released by Sega for the Master System in 1987. At the beginning of the game, Alice, the protagonist of Phantasy Star, witnesses her brother being killed by servants of King Lassic. She then embarks on an adventure to avenge her brother. As she travels, she makes new friends and learns of the devastation caused by the evil king's reign. As expected from such an old game, Phantasy Star has a pretty standard RPG plot without much character development. There's nothing there that's going to blow your mind or change the way you look at life. Still, there are some cool moments, and it does a pretty good job of keeping you engaged. Phantasy Star is a turn-based JRPG. During battles, you have the usual attack, magic, item, and run commands. There's also a talk command. You can converse with some of the enemies, but you can't recruit them like you can in the Megami Tensei series. As your party grows, you'll encounter more monsters in each battle. Phantasy Star is pretty challenging right from the start. As soon as you leave the wall surrounding the first cities, you risk being annihilated by the enemies. Throughout the game, a lot of grinding is required to buy better equipment and get strong enough to survive. This can be frustrating at times, but I don't think it's a bad thing, because you have to work really hard for it, getting enough meseta, the currency of the Phantasy Star games, to buy the best gear in a town gives that gear meaning, and really feels like an accomplishment. This kind of feeling can only be experienced in a hardcore game like Phantasy Star. This kind of hardcore gameplay is not for everyone, but personally I really enjoy it. Similar to the early Ultima games, the dungeons are viewed in first person, while the overworld and towns are viewed from an overhead perspective. Finding your way around these dungeons can be a pain in the neck, so I ended up just using maps I found on the internet. For a game released in 1987, the graphics are quite impressive. I can think of very few games released on an 8-bit system that look this good. The developers of Phantasy Star went above and beyond to implement a lot of ambitious features that were not standard even years after the game's release. It uses beautiful bright colors and takes advantage of the Master System's ability to display 32 colors on the screen at once. The enemy sprites are huge and fully animated. Even during the 16-bit era, animated enemy sprites were not the norm. On top of that, Phantasy Star has several cutscenes. They may not be as long and complex as those in games like the NES Ninja Gaiden trilogy, but they are still quite impressive. But there are no games from that era that match how impressive Phantasy Star's first-person dungeons are. They use the whole screen and your movements are smoothly animated. For a game released in 1987, this was quite a tour de force, and even now I'm still impressed by how great the dungeons look. You also switch to first person when talking to NPCs. I really like seeing towns and other environments from a different perspective. It adds a sense of immersion to the game. The Japanese cartridge has a built-in FM sound chip, so it kind of sounds like a Sega Genesis / Mega Drive game. The US version uses the Master System sound chip, so it sounds like a regular 8-bit game. The Japanese version inevitably sounds more high-tech, but I think the US version has its charms as well. I have a soft spot for old-school 8-bit music. There are a few memorable tunes, and overall, Phantasy Star has a pretty decent soundtrack. For example, the first overworld theme is really catchy and makes you want to embark on an adventure. The dungeon theme has a nice beat and makes you want to explore deeper. The title screen theme is also pretty decent. This is a good start for the Phantasy Star series, but I think the music of its successors is much better. In my opinion, when it comes to music, the first Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games beat Phantasy Star. For this playthrough, I got all my characters to level 30, which is the level cap of the game. In the last town, there's a snake that spawns every time you enter a certain house. I just kept entering the house and fighting the snake until I reached the maximum level. This is the fastest and easiest way I have found to grind levels. Since the cap is only 30, you won't feel that overpowered once you reach it. Still, knowing that your characters are as strong as they can be is always a satisfying feeling. I also got the best gear in the game for each character. Some pieces of equipment were a bit tricky to get, but since I was using a walkthrough it wasn't too bad. Otherwise, getting the best gear in the game is not that hard. With its amazing graphics and FM synthesis music, Phantasy Star was a revolutionary game for its time. Compared to today's standards, it may not be that impressive, but it still holds up as a quite entertaining game. If you're looking for a challenge and enjoy old school RPGs, this is a game worth playing. It's a great start for the Phantasy Star franchise, and I'm really looking forward to playing the other titles in the series. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.